Hi everyone, this is my probably final team of 2025 Supercoach. So we'll start off with Harry Sheasel. Must have. I don't think you're gonna win it without him. Yeah, he's still young. He's gonna improve even more. He's got future Brownlow potential. Nothing more than I need to say. You got Max Holmes, who is probably slightly undervalued. He's still got a fair bit of growing, and he's probably going to be one of main Geelong midfielders if he not already is. Since Selwood's gone, Dangerfield's getting older, and there's no one else really there for Geelong in the midfield. Probably their weakness at the moment is their ruck and their midfield. They probably do need someone to step it up, and I think Max Holmes has done that, but he needs to take it up just a step further. With Geelong going to remain a good side going forward. And he's got that mid-defensive option, which is great, just in case we do need him to cover during some of the buys. That's why I've got him there. Matt Roberts, 124 round 0 game against Hawthorn, phenomenal. That's what we want. So put him in. What more could you really ask for? Looks like other people are going to jump on him too, so he's not really a semi-pod anymore. I don't think he was ever really a pod, but it's kind of not necessarily must-have, but it's like, okay, this guy he's going to go places this year. And then Harry Perryman, 93. Looks good for the first 3 quarters, but sort of tapered off a little bit in the last quarter, sort of like Collingwood. It was one of their better players in pretty much a bad game from 80% of Collingwood. 80% of his teammates performed poorly. 93. He's had probably a bit better role this season. He's looking. It's still maybe tad expensive, but hopefully he goes up like another 100k. Not too sure if he's going to be a keeper. If he can remain, he might be one of the last trade outs if he isn't going to be a keeper, depending how things go. It was one of the weak performance Collingwood, so we'll see how we go going forward. He's only round 0. And this is where things starting to get a bit more interesting in my side. Some point of different players. Something just to be a bit different, because I've noticed a lot of teams are very similar. So I've gone with Fraser. This is something different. A few people have talked about him. He did have a good pre-season match. I know that was without Ballydale. And it's the same applies with Cleary as well, who had a decent practice match, but again, I think Dale was playing either. So they're probably not going to be quite the same role as when Dale is playing. But I still do think an improvement's going to happen for both of these players. It's probably not really the smartest idea having 2 Bulldog defenders there. But I do think there is value with Cleary. He has been in the system for a while now, and hasn't really had that sort of semi-breakout year or a breakout year. And I reckon this year's probably he's most likely to do it compared to other previous years. So if he does get selected round 1, he is going to be in the side. If not, then we'll probably bring him on to Patton. Sydney scored 68. Well, I'm not really particularly happy with his job security at the moment, even though Sydney do have a few injuries out, which is one of the reasons why they lost in the weekend. So we'll have to wait and see with that. I'm not particularly happy with the defensive rookies this year, because the players you really do have, like Reed's not really a rookie. He's been in the system for a while. He's just had poor luck with injuries. If he played last season, he wouldn't be at this price point. And Leake did alright in the weekend, but again, didn't play out the full game, which is good and bad. It's good that he can score at decent points per minute, but is he going to have that same amount of game time? Because if Briggs didn't get injured, will he have the same amount of game time? Will he have scored 64? Who knows? So there's a bit of a fence with the job security with some of these rookies in defence, and that's why I've sort of gone with 3 mid-price range players in defensive line and 2 primos. I just think that's probably for me personally, I reckon it's the ideal setup. I can't really, there's just not enough really defensive rookies. It's just not enough job security and just too risky for me. And I'd rather pay up for the extra mid pricer, who I know is most likely going to get a game. He's going to improve. There's all these players here in our back line, maybe other than Perryman, are fairly all young players, that are going to improve, or at least stay the same. Like Max Holmes and Sheasel, probably not as much room, particularly with Sheasel. 635, is he going to perform even higher than what he has the last 2 seasons, particularly last year? Who knows? Maybe he could get up to 700k. Is he that good? Is he going to be good as Gary Ablett or a Dacos or a Judd? Who knows? He does have that professionalism. Probably doesn't have quite that bulky body, but he's more of that classy player. He's not going to be your strong marking contestant ball player. He's got very good foot skills, well above average, probably the best at his age. So that's the defence. And onto the midfield. Since Dacos did get injured, or he came off early, had a cramp issues. It's sort of, he was going to have a mediocre game anyway, by the looks of it, but it's sort of, the second half was terrible. Just wasn't his game. This wasn't Collingwood's game. So as a result, he only scored 69. Didn't even get 100. So look, we're probably going to get him at a cheaper price. Still reckon he's a good chance at the Brownlow. Probably still favourite for it, but he might have, from what I heard from news and other reports from other people, he did have a bit of injury cloud going into the season. But then again, he did perform well against Richmond in the practice match. But first off, it's a practice match and against Richmond, not against an intense game. Against an opponent like Tommy Bedford, it was all over him all game, and probably got the better of him for the most part. So, I think that's just what Dacos' weakness is. He does have that one weakness as a tag. He's not the strongest player. So if you are fast enough and you are stronger than him and you're a good tackler, you're a good chance to stop the damage that Dacos can deliver. And that's what Toby Bedford did on Sunday. So, look, I got Sarong. Look, he's still fairly young as well. A bit of improvement. Should have gone with Luke Davies-Uniacke. I'm not too sure. A lot of these top midfielders are either been injured, like you got Bontempelli, Goulden, I think even Butters. Have all been injured except Sarong, so that's mainly the reason why I've gone him. There's just, it seems like a lot of the good midfielders are going down in the pre-season, which is not good. Sort of opens up the door for some of the other players to step it up. I think Sarong, hopefully, can sort of cement his position as one of the game's best midfielders. And you got Rosie. So was he injured or was he suspended last? I think he was injured last season for a large period of time. So he's at a discount price, and since Zach Butters is out, he's going to have that better role. That being said, there could be a bit more of attention going towards him. Who knows? But he did well in the pre-season match. So I am confident with his selection. Still reckon he's undervalued compared to some of the other top midfielders. And then speaking of undervalued, we do have Oliver, which could be potentially one of the most undervalued premium midfielders this season. We had a good pre-season match. So it seems like he's getting there with his fitness, match hardness. Do think he's going to perform better than last season. It'd be difficult not to. So who knows with Oliver? If you can get back to what he was a few seasons ago, he'd be right up there. He'd be one of the best picks of the season. Well, a lot of people have him as well, so it's kind of like if he goes off, you're kind of screwed, and you're 200k behind, and you've quite a lot of number of points behind everyone else. So you just got to go with him. And if he performs poorly, I don't know how much lower he can get than last year for his ability. And then Finn Callaghan, one of the recent players I've just picked it, and simply because he had an outstanding game. 144 was all over Collingwood, destroyed him. And look, he's just cemented his spot in my side, and really has just shown the competition what he can do. He stepped it up already. Now, do I expect this every game? No, but is he that next breakout player, or is this just a one-off? I know GWS did dominate it, and Supercoach scoring wise, a lot of players did go over 100 for GWS. So it could be just a one-off, but it is a good start. I don't want to take that risk if other people have jumped on him and he goes off. He ownership skyrockets and I don't have him. So everyone else gets the advantage and I'm sort of behind the 8 ball, which is what I usually am a lot of the time at the start of the season. Then Will Ashcroft's probably the more controversial one in the midfield here. It's probably the one that a lot of people aren't going to really agree with. I just think, look, you got a Norm Smith last year, and it's sort of like he's getting older now. He's maturing and performed well in the final series, so I reckon he's going to go up a notch. It is a bit of a risk, this one. I'm willing to take it. Probably not 100% too confident. But yeah, it's good to differentiate yourself from other people. And it's not really a pod. Will Ashcroft, I think 24% of people have gone with him. But he's not in every side. But I'm just going based on back of half last season's form, the final series form, and I reckon he's ready to take that next step. And then we've got Sartis, 191, did well in the practice match and had a good season last year in the VFL. So I think he's ready to take up that next step. I think it's good that we can, Essendon can sort of play players like Hobbs and Sartis instead of like Shield is sort of aging. We need players like Sardas to step it up a notch because he was a high-ranking draft pick. Too good for the VFL, in my opinion. Absolutely dominated that. I mean, he's going to get the ball. He may not be the best used, but maybe he can pass it off to a Merritt or someone else with better kicking skills. It's probably one thing he can improve on. But if it become like a Matt Rao, Patrick Cripps, sort of type, or a Dangerfield, I guess that's something we need, or Essendon need. So I'm confident in that pick. And then you've got Levi Ashcroft, who's probably the one that he's a high-ranking draft pick. So he's probably going to go up in value, but is he overrated? Is he going to get the same good as role as what he was if he was at a weaker midfield? Because Brisbane's probably one of the stronger midfields in the competition. So many good players. That's how they won the flag. Because if it was playing like a North Melbourne or even a St Kilda, North Melbourne have a good midfield, so maybe a Richmond or West Coast. He's probably going to get a better role there, and I reckon he should score more at those clubs potentially. But then again, since Brisbane do have a good lot of midfield options, he's probably going to get less attention, or most attention be on Neil McCluggage. So we'll just have to wait and see with Ashcroft. Still fairly confident. And then you've got Boxall here, and main reason is I've got him simply because he did well in that practice match. He scored 80. He was actually one of St Kilda's better players, considering how they got smashed. He kicked a couple of goals too, I think. So look, if he does play, I reckon he's going to generate some cash, and he's one of the cheaper rookies too. So 113,000 if he gets a game at that price. There's not many people at his price point do get selected. That'd be alright. And then you got Elijah Hewitt. I think he played for Carlton, and he does have that forward option, so it could swing him down forward. Not particularly too confident. Haven't really seen any breakout games. And same with Erasmus. I think he had a few okay games last season or the year before. So they've been in the system for a few years now, at least. And they're probably willing to take the next step. Not quite confident in these two. Same with Camperell. He had a decent, pre-season match. But he hasn't, it's hard to see where he's going to fit in with Carlton's, decent midfield. I think he might be more of a wing player. Could be wrong, because they've already got those contestant balls like players like Cripps and Shearer in, so I'm not too sure particularly what his role is going to be. Probably might be on the wing. Probably need to ask Carlton supporter, they'll know a bit more. But if he can get selected, that'd be great. We'll just have to wait and see on that. The bench midfield I'm not 100% confident in. I might have to pay up for another rookie, potentially. Maybe you pay up for O'Sullivan and put Boschall as an emergency loophole or something like that in the midfield. We'll just have to wait and see with that. Probably might be a few changes with the bench options here. Hopefully it doesn't lead to any on-field changes. And then the rucks, for me, it's pretty straightforward. You've got Sherry, who was one of the better ruckmen last season. It's underrated, definitely. Probably one of the most underrated players in the comp. And then you got Matt Flynn. Yeah, it looks like he was injured last season. Didn't really get too much of a game. Played too many games last season. So, look, I reckon if Flynn can get back to his best, he's going to make some money for us. And we can, depending how well it goes, if he plays extremely well, he could potentially be a keeper. If not, we can flip him to a Tom DeConning or maybe potentially a Max Gawn. Maybe in English, though English didn't perform as well last year. And then you've obviously got on the bench Boyd here as a loophole. He could play as well, who knows. If he does, that's great. He can generate some cash at 99,000. Will probably be the cheapest player I've ever seen that I have on my field. So due to the new flexi role player's price, just have dropped a little bit to compensate that. Then on to the 4 line, probably the most boring part of my team, to be honest. There's no real creativity here or anything that's sort of outside the box. You've got Horn Francis. He's got 4 line status. It was close last year. He would have been a great option last year, but he's got it this year somehow. Don't think it will last too long. So this might be the final year we do have it at him as a forward. Who knows? He could be a Patrick Dangerfield type or a Gary Ablett who does play forward, or even a Dustin Martin. But look, yeah, he's another young player who's set to improve. And since Butters is out, he's going to have that that better role with Rosie in the midfield. So that's really the main reason why I've selected him. Plus a lot of other people have picked him as well, which isn't really as good as a reason. But if he goes off, no one else has him. He's most likely going to be a primo forward. And same with Rankin as well. Maybe not quite as good as role as Horn Francis, but he's another young player that's still going to have that potential to improve a little bit. And McRae's pretty more of a clear cut. Had a great pre-season match. It looks like he's going to get that role that he has had for the last 5-6 years, really, except last season. So he's going to have that role. Because it was a bit difficult at the Dogs when you had Trelaw, you had Liberatore and Bontempelli, 3 excellent midfielders, probably A-grade midfielders. And he just isn't going to quite get that same as a role there. He's probably a little bit slow for an AFL player, but he is good at getting the ball. And I still reckon Bulldogs, would have had were better off if they did play him in that final, make a change and put him on and get that ball. Because they weren't able to get that ball, particularly in that third quarter against Hawthorn. So look, McRae, he's a lock for me unless he gets injured, and hopefully he continues on with that role. And then Bailey Smith is probably the one that's probably the most controversial player in this forward line. You could maybe argue Horton Francis maybe a little bit with some of the things they do off field, but I think it's more about mentality with Smith. There's been a few people who haven't selected him. Is he going to get that same role? I've heard reports he might be on a wing, or not as good role as what we want him to have. So I'm a bit hesitant with Smith. Is probably I am and surprised with the amount of people are selected him. I just still think there's a bit, I wouldn't say overrated pick or a bit of a trap, but I think more people picking him than what he's really shown in his past. Like, he's had a few decent seasons, but he hasn't really had that full breakout year compared to other players in his draft level. So, and that's the thing with Smith. He's got all the potential in the world, but he hasn't really fully used it yet. So we'll see how it goes with Geelong. They always find a way with players. It could work. If it's going to work at any other club, it probably will be Geelong. We'll just have to wait and see. I would have liked if he did play against Brisbane in round 0. It would have been a lot better. To get an eye in of how good he is. With Geelong's chemistry. So it may take about a few matches for him to get in the swing of things again. And then Sanders, another player is probably too good for the VFL. We had a decent pre-season match. Let's wait and see with Flanders. He's a lock for now, because I don't want to not have him and then he goes off. Seems like he's going to have a better role now. I think McRae's gone. A few other players have left, and Bontempelli is injured, so he's should have a better role now this season. And then we've gone to Caleb Daniel. I think another one that it's a bit more of a obvious one too. He's got a better role here at North Melbourne. 269 Daniel. I remember him being 500k last a couple of seasons ago, and I had him in my side. So look, Daniel, definitely underpriced. And see what how North Melbourne play with him. Hopefully, he does get that better role and plays more matches, which he should at North Melbourne. He's got better job security there, and should get a better role. And then Kako, 149,000. So he's sort of that mid-tier rookie. And a lot of people on board him can kick 4 goals in a practice match against a quality opposition. There's a few things you can sort of read off that match. It's just a practice match. Secondly, he was against, it was a practice match. I mean, it is a good sign. A bit more hype around him compared to most of the other small forwards. So we can see his potential is there. But what about during the middle of winter when it's cold and wet? That same intensity, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge for him. But all he really needs to do is just kick a couple bags of 3 goals, 3 or 4 games, a couple of good games in a row as a small forward, and then he should hopefully go up to 350k or around 300k at least to make some profit. So it's a bit small forward line. Small forward's probably usually one of the worst. Not really the best selection. One of the worst positions really for Supercoach. Probably worse than a key forward, because at least with key forwards you can take marks up the ground if you're not getting involved or having a poor game. With small forwards it's kind of like a wet game. I mean, it's they can get 20 Supercoach points or get 100. Because they if they're not getting the ball, if there's a poor game, your team's performing poorly. He may only get a couple disposals and he can get like a really low score. So that's why he's going to be as an emergency option. And then Connor Stone got 64 on the weekend, which is not too bad. Hopefully he secured his position. Although 64 in a dominant win's not really too convincing, because most of their players did play well. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but he does have some runs on the board, so I guess that's the reason why a lot of people are on board for now. So he does have that that guaranteed price rise unless he doesn't play or doesn't get injured. And then Davidson, like what I saw in the practice match, he performed well, and he does have that he does have that forward line too. So I'm happy with that. How he performed. So job security is a bit. It's kind of like with some of these players, with these rookies or first year players or players who've played in their second, third, or even fourth season. There's a bit of a mystery about it, because we know how. We know what Oliver's capable of doing. Will he do it this season? We know how good Sarong is. We know how good Rosie can be, but not too sure without Zach Butters. Even Finn Callahan's a bit of mystery. He performed well one game. Let's hope he continues that on. It was without Green though, and that's another thing that a lot of people haven't really mentioned. And same with Ashcroft, Boxall. A lot of these young players have most of these players don't really have that really long history of high scoring. Maybe McRae has had an Oliver. Sarong. Sheasel's done it for a few years. Max Holmes only really done it last year. And Perriman probably could still go to another level. So that's what the major concern with this side. It's pretty a young list. There's no really old players. So there is a bit of concern with the unpredictability. But I guess that's it makes it a bit more exciting. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you don't agree with some of the selections, it's probably the rookies where I think people might not particularly be too happy with this. I can see why, maybe with a Cleary, probably take him out for a pattern if he's not playing. Still think Cleary has a high potential of scoring. I think he's a bit older as well. Could be wrong about that. All right, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.